So the stocks that we picked this week to look at, let's pop these up. We got about 6 of them here, so let's run through them. So we got some bottom fishing ideas. We've got a chart we've been looking at Tesla, waiting for something to look like it's going to reverse and try to go upside. It looks like we got that today, so it'll be interesting. And then a couple defense stocks. Let's start with the defense stocks. So we were talking about this one. We were wondering what it looked like. And now that we have it up, boy, this took a hit, didn't it? So with all the selling to Saudi Arabia, you think these guys would be doing good. Yeah, well, but at the same time, it depends on your time frame, right? So this thing's coming back, really not that much volume, even though huge, wide price spreads both times, both anchors. So the first, what does it tell us? The first thing it tells us is that this bullish retest regen just got blown away on this time frame. So more than likely what was up is probably sideways at best, maybe down. And so that tells us that whatever you do here, you're gonna have to do it on a different time frame if you're trying to buy it, which is probably what you still should do, because if you look at the other time frames, on those time frames, this thing is still bullish, right? So this, this is Wednesday. We only have 4 days this week, so this is half the volume of the week. 2.8 be 5.6 divided by 4 is 1.2, about 1.1 and a quarter times 5. It's about 5.5, right? 5.6. And the volume on this is 5.5. So it's doing almost the same volume, coming back. And this is the first test, so you'd expect all the way down to the bottom, which is what it's doing already. Yeah, so everything here actually looks okay in terms of the way it's coming back so far. Now, that doesn't mean you just buy it, right? Because the great thing about Neo is it says you know what to expect, and then you see what it does. And so it's coming back, it's doing a full retest. If it holds here, and if volume actually ends up about the same or less, right, than this one, which would be somewhere in here. And remember, we've got 4 days this week, so whatever the volume is this week, you divide it by 4 and then multiply by 5 to get your real volume to compare to that bar, so that you're doing equal weeks. And so given that, it doesn't look bad. Then you also have this swing point right up underneath it. My guess is this thing will bounce right off the bat and probably hold here, even if it undercuts it a little bit, probably closes up inside of it on the week. I wouldn't trade that for the bounce because I don't see a good target over here on the daily. But then you see what it does the next week or two, and if it holds up there or actually inches back up, you know, you've got good monthlies, good weeklies. You know, maybe to be a trade somewhere down the line. It's just not now, which is what you were saying at the beginning, Matt. So the other one I was that you made me think about was this other one I've been monitoring and playing with myself, which is KTOS. Now, when I last talked to you guys, I think I told y'all that I wouldn't do anything until this thing showed a failure, and I hadn't done anything yet. Well, it did show a failure, not a failure, but it showed what looked to be a potential 2-bar, which was right here. It was right after I talked with y'all, I think, the last time I talked about this guy. So you got a little doji, over, under, a lot less volume, right? After an extended move in a compressed time frame. Now, one thing this didn't have was enough bars. You would like to see more bars, right? There was only like 6 bars here. And so it's typical that these things, even though they'll get the retrace, right, they're so strong that they just hold up, and this one did, and then it just took off again. When it came back up, I think it was on this bar, I took a little bit off because I thought it was going to fail again. And I can't really blow this up much bigger than this, but that failure is right there. So here was the first failure, the 2-bar. It looked like a 2-bar, a little pullback, comes back up, has less volume, goes over, back under. It looks like another failure on the test. And then, of course, it takes off again, right? So now I'm just kind of in a standstill waiting to see what this thing wants to do. The problem for me is, you know, when you look at this thing is up 39% in a month. So it's like, okay, I know it's extended, right? So when's it going to fail? And now the real question is, where do you buy the thing, right, when it does pull back? And this is the bar. It's down here, but I don't know if it's going to get there anytime soon. So this is the spot above it, which is like right there. So we'll see around 21 if it makes sense again. But you know, you take these kind of moonshots. Again, defense stock here. This, it's not going to come really deep. Worst case, I would think, would be back to here. And so it gets hard to buy these because the most you can expect probably is a bounce back towards the top. Your risk reward just doesn't start making a lot of sense. So even though you got great probabilities, right, your reward risk doesn't make a lot of sense. Great stock if you had it. It's not much you can do with it until it settles down for a while, and then you know, think about it long term again. So anyway, good stock, same sector. I don't know why the big difference. I don't know, maybe LNT had earnings or something. Okay, let's go to the bottom. No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing you have to do with these, and it's hard, and I think you probably remember a trade that we made, and I don't have it in here, but I'll show you because it's a good example, is the DBA. This thing we were bottom fishing on, if you remember, and we bottom fished it back here. We were looking at this area right there. And we were bottom fishing in here somewhere. I don't remember where. And look what it's done since then, right? What you have to get, which this one still hasn't done, what you have to get, and I'll go back to Halliburton to do the example, is you have to get a bottom in somewhere, right, where something fails, neoclassically. So you have to get a bearish retest region to fail somewhere. In this case, you just need to see, you know, a sign of strength where volume expands and it gets over something big like that, right? You know, something, right? And then that's still not going to be the bottom. Then this stupid thing is going to come back, right? And then show you again, right? And then break some high that it had finally. And then you have a chance that you may have a bottom, right? So these take forever. And usually you lose interest long before it does what it needs to get. Yeah. This you just can't do anything with. Yeah. Yeah, you just have to leave them alone, and you know, if you're interested in the sector, you just keep watching the sector, and then actually it's easier to take the strongest ones in the sector, use the sector trend tool, right? You just go over and pop into this guy, pull up the wherever it is, there's sector trends, you know, pull up one of these like what was that, HAL, and then go find all the guys in the group, right, and see what they look like, and find, I usually short on intermediate, go find the ones that are the strongest and go see what they look like, and then monitor those, because that's where the first trades will be in that sector, most likely. You know, you may get one or two others that pop up all of a sudden, but that's the way I usually do it if I'm trying to get something in a sector. Let me go back to this, and Tesla. It's fine. I'll go to Tesla. So Tesla is interesting because today, now we don't have dailies yet, but today it actually started doing something that looks like some sort of bottom, and that is a huge spike, right? People get blown out, and today it finally goes under it, back over it. A lot less volume. And so this can actually bounce now back up, and I think that price point is about 198, 199. It can bounce back up to that. It can bounce back up to this top, which is about 206, right? And these are going to be bounces the first time. They're not going to, more than likely, unless you get, you know, Elon telling us something that we totally don't expect, right? You're not going to get, I mean, look at the swing point low on this thing. You got to come all the way back up here just to get to the low. That's what, 20, that's 14, 15%, right? To just get back to a swing point low to do a retest regen. So, you know, again, these are bounces. If one wants to trade them, this is where you take a bounce trade, and you put your stop right there. You don't give it any room, and you're going to take profits immediately here, or at worst on the next one. And you're shooting for something like that. But these are timing trades, and they're really hard, right? Because the easier trade in here is don't do a darn thing. Let it bounce up there and short it. So I thought this was interesting because we talked about it, I think, if I remember right, it was about a week ago. So it was probably back on these bars that it was being talked about. But you can see it actually declined another, you know, let's just say it was 200, declined another 15 bucks off of that. That's another 8-9%, right? So if you try to catch it there, all of a sudden you're 8-9% below, and when the buy finally comes, you know, because up here you had nothing yet, and now at least you have some sort of signal. It's important to get the signal. If you can't get the signal, there's no sense in making the trade. It just they're killers. You're probably going to get it on the weekly too. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was finally a decent example of where you might take a shot if you really wanted to. But again, just like we were talking about in the last one, it's so much easier to just trade with the trend. I've made a lot more money trading with trend than ever trying to trade these bounces. Because usually you find yourself underwater on them, and then it's like struggling just to get even again. Okay, that's it for those guys.